Is this what the Egyptians saw in the sky? An inverted, pyramid-shaped UFO that first inspired them to build pyramids?
It flew without wings, and from the moment it appeared, the mystery began.
We have an object that presents very advanced technology.
Government officials have just broken their long silence by releasing thousands of pages of top-secret UFO reports.
Video, photos, other sensor information, and they have for a very long time. And it's not those fuzzy photos and videos that we've been given. There's very clear
high-res,
high-resolution.
How many visuals, graphics, videos, photos?
I mean, I've been told hundreds, maybe thousands. I mean, I also wanted to say, because there was some conversation around concern around the revealing of these materials, revealing the source collections, but some of these are shot from helicopters.
For decades, these files were buried deep in classified archives where no one could access them. Now the public is finally getting a glimpse of what happens when advanced technology enters human airspace. One of the most overlooked parts of this release is the testimony from radar operators. They reported objects moving at 10,000 miles per hour without making a sound. These files show that the government was actively investigating these mysteries while publicly denying they even existed. Washington decided to break the silence. Recent events in the Capitol have shifted the entire conversation about what is flying in the sky. For a long time, anyone talking about strange lights was ignored. That changed when Congress held open hearings and started, demanding that the military hand over their hidden files. One of the biggest pieces of news is the testimony about craft retrieval programs. Multiple sources have now come forward to say the government has physical evidence of technology that did not come from Earth. These insiders claim that secret groups have been trying to figure out how these machines work for a very long time. It is not that simple, though. These programs were hidden so well that even the people in charge of the country did not know they existed. This is a key detail because it shows a level of secrecy that goes beyond national security. The documents recently released show that pilots have been reporting these encounters for years. In many cases, these pilots were told to stay quiet or they would lose their jobs. But here is the catch. The sensor data from these jets matches the stories the pilots were telling. We are talking about objects that can hover in hurricane-force winds and then take off at speeds that would crush a human pilot. What most people do not realize is that these files include data from sophisticated satellites that have been tracking these things in space. The crazy part is that the government has known about this for a long time. They were just waiting for the right moment, or perhaps they were forced by the law to finally speak up. One of the most interesting parts of the new files is the description of the objects themselves. They do not have wings, they do not have engines, and they do not leave any exhaust. They seem to move using a type of propulsion that we do not understand yet. Basically, they are breaking all the rules of science that we learn in school. Hands down, the most shocking revelation is that these objects have been seen entering and leaving the water. This suggests they are not just flying machines, but they can travel through different environments with ease. This information was kept buried because it proves that our current defense systems are completely useless against this technology. There are still many rumors in the air, but what many can confirm is that the government is no longer denying the reality of these objects. They are calling them Unidentified Anomalous Phenomena, or UAPs. This change in name is important because it shows they are taking the matter seriously. The files released by Congress show that these objects are a frequent sight near military training ranges. In fact, they are so common that pilots have started seeing them as a safety hazard. See, the government was not just worried about aliens, they were worried about mid-air collisions with things they could not identify. This led to a massive internal investigation that was kept away from the public eye for decades. Many people are confused about why this is happening now. The truth is that new laws were passed that required the military to be more transparent. A lot of people are obsessed with the idea of a single smoking gun photo, but the real evidence is in the thousands of pages of technical data. These files show that the military tracked these objects using multiple sensors at once. This means it was not just a glitch in one camera. It was a physical object that reflected radar and emitted heat. And that is putting it lightly. The data suggests that these objects can go from 0 to thousands of miles per hour instantly. The fight to get these files out was not easy. Some groups within the Pentagon fought hard to keep the vault closed. They argued that releasing the data would reveal too much about our own sensor capabilities. However, lawmakers argued that the public has a right to know if there is a superior technology operating in our skies. For starters, this release is just the beginning. There are still many more files that are being reviewed for release. The current batch focuses on events from the last 20 years, including the famous Tic Tac encounter from 2004. The details of that specific encounter are more vivid in these new files than ever before. Pilots described the object as a white, smooth cylinder about 40 feet long. It moved like a ping-pong ball bouncing off a wall. When the pilots tried to get close, the object vanished and reappeared at their secret meeting point 60 miles away. This means the object knew where they were going before they even got there. It is one of the most overlooked aspects of the story. It shows a level of intelligence and awareness that is truly frightening. New sensor data shows the objects may be using gravity itself to move. Mystery of the Silver Disc clip. Everyone is talking about a specific video clip that has been circulating alongside these new files. This footage shows a silver, disc-shaped object moving at an incredible speed just above the surface of the ocean. The camera, which is mounted on a military jet, struggles to keep the object in frame because it moves so fast. See? But here is the catch. This is not a CGI trick or a fake video. This is official footage that was recorded by a high-tech sensor system. The object in the video has no visible signs of a motor or any way to stay in the air. It just slides through the sky as if the air does not even exist. The footage was captured near a military base where pilots often practice their maneuvers. According to the declassified report attached to this clip, the object was detected by radar long before the pilot saw it with his eyes. The radar showed the object dropping from 80,000 feet down to the sea level in less than 1 second. For a human craft to do that, it would have to be moving at many thousands of miles per hour. No known aircraft can survive those kinds of forces. The crazy part is that the object did not create a sonic boom when it broke the sound barrier. It was completely silent. What most people do not realize is that the sensor tracking the object was one of the most advanced in the world. It uses heat signatures and laser range finding to lock onto targets. The sensor showed that the object was cold. It did not have a hot engine like a normal jet or a missile. This is a key detail because it rules out almost every piece of human technology. If there is no heat, there is no combustion. If there is no combustion, how is it moving? This is the question that has been bothering government scientists for years. They kept this video buried because they simply did not have an answer. Basically, the object was playing with the pilots. In the full report, the pilots say the disc would mirror their movements. If they went up, it went up. If they turned left, it turned left. It was as if the object was curious about them. One of the most overlooked aspects of this encounter is that the object eventually dived into the water and disappeared. The sonar on a nearby ship picked up the object moving underwater at over 100 miles per hour. This is much faster than any submarine ever built. The truth is that we are looking at something that is far ahead of our own capabilities. A lot of people are confused about why the video is black and white. This is because the sensor is using infrared light to see. This allows it to track objects even in total darkness or through clouds. The clarity of the disc in this footage is what makes it so special. You can clearly see the edges of the craft and the fact that it has no windows or doors. It looks like a solid piece of metal that was molded into a perfect shape. And that is putting it lightly. It is the most compelling evidence we have of a physical craft that does not belong to us. The report also mentions that there were dozens of these objects seen on radar at the same time. They were moving in a fleet formation, like a group of birds. This suggests a coordinated effort or a mission. They were not just random lights in the sky. They were organized. Nobody expected this to happen, but the data shows these fleets have been visiting our coastlines for decades. The government kept this buried because they did not want people to know that our borders are not as secure as we thought. The pilots who saw the disk up close said it felt like the air around it was vibrating. This might be a side effect of the way it moves. Some scientists believe the craft creates a bubble of warped space around it. Inside the bubble, the craft does not feel the effects of gravity or air resistance. This would explain why it can move so fast and make sharp turns without falling apart. So, here is the deal. We are not just looking at a new kind of plane. We are looking at a new kind of physics. The files contain even more data on how these objects interact with our electronics. Deep records. Inside the hidden archives. When you look into the files that Congress just pulled out of the shadows, you find stories that go back decades. One of the most interesting folders is about an incident from the late 1960s. At a military base in Montana, 10 nuclear missiles were suddenly shut down at the exact same time. The guards reported seeing a glowing red object hovering over the gate. The missiles were in a deep underground silo and were not connected to the internet. There was no way to turn them off from the outside using normal technology. And get this, the missiles only came back online after the object flew away. The government spent years investigating this, but they kept the results a secret. They were worried that our enemies would think our nuclear weapons were not reliable. These files show that the same thing happened at a Soviet base during the Cold War. It seems that whoever is behind these objects is interested in our most dangerous weapons. They are not just watching us. They are actively interfering with our military systems. This is a key detail that was left out of the history books for a long time. It shows that these encounters are a matter of global security, not just a curious hobby. Another set of files talks about biological materials found at crash sites. For a long time, the government said there were no crashes and no bodies. However, these new documents mention non-human biologics that were recovered from at least 12 different sites. The researchers who studied these materials said the DNA was unlike anything found on Earth. It was not an animal, and it was not a human. What most people do not realize is that these researchers were forced to sign papers saying they would never speak about what they saw. Many are not seeing the truth here because the government used fear to keep the secret for over 70 years. Basically, there is a shadow government that has been running these programs. The files show that billions of dollars were taken from the public budget and moved into black projects. These projects were so secret that even the president did not have a full list of what they were doing. Hands down, this is the biggest financial scandal in history. Money meant for schools and roads was spent on trying to reverse engineer alien technology. The files include receipts for specialized equipment and underground facilities that were built specifically to house these crafts. A lot of people are confused about how something this big could stay secret for so long. The documents explain that the military used a system of compartmentalization. This means that one group would work on the engine and another group would work on the body, but neither group knew what the other was doing. Only a few people at the very top had the whole picture. It is not that simple, though. The secrecy was also enforced by a group of private contractors. These companies are not subject to the same laws as the government, so they could hide the files even better. The new archives also include thousands of photos that have never been seen by the public. Some of these photos are very clear and show crafts that look like they are made of glass or liquid metal. There are also reports from astronauts who saw strange things while they were in orbit around the moon. One report mentions a fleet of objects following the Apollo spacecraft. The astronauts were told to use a special code to talk about these sightings so that the public listening on the radio would not know what was happening. See, the cover-up started at the very beginning of the space race. One of the most overlooked aspects of these files is the mention of underground bases. There are coordinates for several locations in the desert where the government is allegedly hiding the larger crafts. These sites are protected by some of the most advanced security systems in the world. Anyone who gets too close is immediately met by armed guards in unmarked vehicles. The truth is that the government has a lot more than just paper files. They have the physical objects themselves, and they are still trying to figure out how to turn them on. The next step is for Congress to visit these secret locations and see the truth. Patterns in the sky over decades. If you look at all the declassified data at once, you start to see a very clear pattern. These objects are not just visiting at random. They seem to be interested in specific places on our planet. They are often seen near volcanic activity, nuclear power plants, and major military bases. One of the most shocking reports in the files describes a massive object that was seen over a city in Arizona in 1997. Thousands of people saw it, including the governor. For years, the government said it was just flares from an airplane. But the new files admit that the military had no planes in the area at that time. The data shows that these objects have been visiting us since at least 1947. This was the year of the famous Roswell incident. While the official story for 70 years was that a weather balloon crashed, this is a technology that we still do not have today. The crazy part is that the material was also a conductor of electricity. It was as if the ship and the computer were the same thing. What most people do not realize is that these objects are also being tracked by other countries. The files include memos from intelligence agencies in the United Kingdom, France, and even Russia. They all describe the same types of crafts and the same impossible movements. So, here is the deal. This is not just an American problem, this is a global reality. Everyone is obsessed with the idea of a first contact event. But these files suggest that contact happened a long time ago. We just were not invited to the meeting. There are still many rumors in the air, but what many can confirm is that the objects seem to have an interest in our oceans. Over half of the reports in the new files involve objects that come from the water or go into it. Some scientists think that there might be a base at the bottom of the deep ocean where humans cannot go. The water is so deep that the pressure would crush any of our submarines, but these objects move through it as if it is nothing. Basically, they might have been here longer than we have. We are just the neighbors who live on the surface. One of the most overlooked aspects of the reports is the effect these objects have on the people who get close to them. There are hundreds of medical records in the files describing radiation burns and memory loss. People who saw the objects up close often had trouble remembering the event until they were hypnotized. This suggests that the objects might have a way to affect the human brain, and that is putting it lightly. It is a level of technology that is almost like magic to us. It is no wonder the government wanted to keep it a secret. They did not want to admit that they could not protect us from these effects. Could it be that these visitors are just waiting for us to reach a certain level of peace? What do you think is the most shocking detail from these released files? Let us know in the comments below. Please like this video and subscribe to the channel for more deep dives into the world's greatest mysteries.